So today's presentation is part of our online speaker series, Professionals in Sustainability, started as a careers program for students in sustainability management. Shared in the chat is a link to access our webpage with past event recordings. And please know this session is being recorded to add to our archive. We will have a Q&A period after the presentation where you can unmute your mic. And if you don't want to forget your question, feel free to write it in the chat at any time. This series is a collaboration between Open Academy at ESF, Office of Sustainability, and our Office of Career Services. So I'm excited to introduce our speaker today, and I'm going to shift my screen and let Twiggy start sharing her screen, if that works. And for today's event, I am very pleased to welcome Twiggy Mendenhall, who I knew as Twiggy Hamilton when she started at ESF in the fall of 2020. She's had many life experiences that have led her to being here with us today. And I am beyond excited that she will present. Since we began this series, it's been my goal to feature a graduate from our sustainability management degree program as a speaker. Twiggy has brought an eagerness for our course content, applying it to her career goals, and a general willingness to push herself and be open to new experiences and opportunities that reflects what this degree program is for ESF as our first fully online undergraduate degree. Along with suggesting and then helping me connect students in this degree program through a Professionals in Sustainability New York City hybrid event, Twiggy represented online students as a speaker at ESF's Inclusive Excellence graduation reception when she finished her degree in December of 2022. As part of her presentation, I know she's going to delve into her educational and work experience. So with that, I am very pleased to welcome Twiggy Mendenhall, Policy Associate with CleanCapital.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Kathy. So happy to be here. As Kathy said, my name is Twiggy Mendenhall, previously Twiggy Hamilton. I'm so happy to speak today on this Sustainability Speaker Series and proud to be SUNY ESF alumni. I am a 2022 graduate from the Bachelor of Science in Sustainability Management program. The goal today for me is going to be to highlight the role of policy in renewable energy development. I think policy gets left out of the conversation of careers when it comes to sustainability. So happy to highlight policy today and kind of share my career journey that led me to my current role at CleanCapital. I'll stop there and say, does my presentation look good? Are we all set? Awesome. So I'll start with my first experience. Although I was born and raised on Long Island, New York, I did spend quite a bit of time in the city of Chicago. And there I decided to enroll at Truman College and pursue a 2-year degree before coming to SUNY ESF. So while getting that associate's degree with the biology focus, one thing that I did as a student was look at all of the professors at my college and follow them all on LinkedIn. Created a profile, I followed them all, I introduced myself, and made it known that I was really interested in sustainability careers, that I did not know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to focus on, that I wanted to learn from them. And one of my professors, John Brophy, who heads up the renewable energy, program at Truman College, shared a post about a solar jobs training program. And this program was born out of a policy called FEJA, the Future Energy Jobs Act in Illinois. The Future Energy Jobs Act created a bunch of funding for career development in Chicago for folks like me who were kind of just starting out, really interested in those types of careers, and were looking for good jobs. So I got the opportunity to apply for that, take a quick skills training assessment, and was initially selected to do this FEJA Solar Jobs training program. Um, During that program, I received career training. I received resume training where they walked me through how to write a resume, what it takes to get these types of jobs. I received hands-on training as well. As you see me here on the left in the middle, I learned how to strip wire, how to put on a helmet, how to put on a harness, how to climb a ladder, um, and really delved into solar energy development. Um, on the right here is a picture of a lobby day that they took us on. I did not know this was going to be a part of that program, but our job there as solar job trainees was to talk about our experience in the jobs training program, talk about the power of policy like FISA that created the funding to do this training, and talk about what we wanted to do in the future. So that was my first introduction into policy, was this lobby day to talk about this jobs training program. And a little light bulb went off in my head, and I went, "Wow, this is also an opportunity, right?" It wasn't just a solar installation training; it was really a broad training with a lot of different topics that was meant to give us an introduction to renewable energy and all the things that we can do. So I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity, and sparked my interest in policy and fighting for even more funding for career development for projects to be underway. So that was my introduction into solar energy. But unfortunately, I graduated during the pandemic. So we had the COVID-19 pandemic going on, and a lot of folks were not hiring at the time. So while I had this great training, there weren't a lot of people hiring. Um, I used all those hands-on training experiences that I got, mechanical assembly experience that I received to work at GE. Actually, I started working at General Electric, and I started working there as an electronics assembler. So I was using hand tools all the time. I was soldering. I was putting together components mechanically, really for aviation units, but using a lot of those hands-on skills, which really shows you how transferable the things that you do can be. Sometimes we don't think that the skills we have are relevant to a certain field or job, but believe me, you'll be surprised at what people find valuable. So don't be afraid to kind of highlight some of those non-traditional transferable skills that you do have. Um, so that brings me to how I got to SUNY ESF. I did graduate during the pandemic with a 2-year degree, but really thought it would be valuable to continue my education. And something that I really needed was flexibility, flexibility to continue working full time as I'd done throughout my education. And I applied to a lot of different programs, but landed on SUNY ESF. Um, I mean, the staff here are awesome. They're so knowledgeable, so helpful, have always made me feel so welcome, have done tutoring sessions with me at 7 p.m. after work. And it ultimately was a really great decision to make the transfer in. So once graduating with my 2-year degree, I transferred over to SUNY ASF to the online sustainability management program, which really is built for folks who have that 2-year degree experience and want to kind of continue the education in sustainability. Um, so I started taking a bunch of courses in continuing my education over the next 2 years. Um, but having that policy experience in mind in the back of my head, I really wanted to continue to explore policy and explore those types of careers. So I applied to about 1 million internships, applied everywhere, not just to policy, but really wanted to get my foot into a renewable energy development company. Um, so I landed on EcoG Energy, and they took me on as a policy and marketing intern. And I wanted to highlight for the folks in New York that this is a New York State funded program. We have a great organization in New York called NYSERDA, and NYSERDA, it heads up all of our clean energy development programs, and oversees a lot of the incentives to build solar, but not only to build solar, but career development, technical assistance, for residents and businesses. And that is a resource for you. So if you do want to take out your phones or something and look and use the QR code to find out about this clean energy internship program, that resource is available to students looking to get internships. So I applied normally just through LinkedIn, through Indeed, through job sites, and the employer actually was a part of. They were a NYSERDA approved company, and they gave me some instructions on how to apply through the NYSERDA portal and become approved to participate in this internship program. And I believe at minimum they paid $17 an hour. Um, for you to get this job experience. So it is paid. It's a really great opportunity to learn. So in that internship program, I was following federal, state, and local policy. As a policy intern, I was also doing marketing. So I was uh, paying attention to some of their analytics on LinkedIn from posts. I was writing posts about the great work that we were doing with our projects, and a host of other things that I'm going to get into a little later on in the presentation when I go over what I currently do and how that relates to my education. Um, After completing that 4-month internship, I decided to stay on, and they were happy to have me to stay on as a policy analyst. Um, by the time I graduated, I had a full-time offer to be a policy manager with the same organization. So I followed them through from a policy and marketing intern to a policy analyst to a policy manager. And that was over the course of about 2.5 years. So internships are a great opportunity to get your foot in the door, but also stay with a company and learn a lot. So that kind of brings me to where I'm currently at as a policy associate at CleanCapital. Um, Working for an investor of clean energy is very rewarding. So attracting institutional capital to renewable energy is CleanCapital's founding mission and singular focus. The impacts of climate change will be devastating without dramatic action, causing 54 trillion in damage by early as 2040, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report. This was a report that I actually got a chance to dig into, I believe, in the climate change course, which was a part of SUNY ESF's sustainability management curriculum. Transitioning to a renewable energy economy is a critical step and a $16 trillion investment opportunity, because these projects have to get built in some way. That way is usually money. So the deep capital resource capacity of institutional investors like CleanCapital is critical to expanding the deployment of clean energy and clean tech innovation. Um, and I will leave plenty of time at the end for questions. So please jot those down for the end. And just to introduce CleanCapital briefly here, um, like I said, attracting institutional capital or money to renewable energy is CleanCapital's founding mission and singular focus. We are a diversified clean energy investment platform founded in 2015. We are actually based in New York City. We have offices in Wappingers Falls and Buffalo, New York, where our president lives. CleanCapital's mission is to accelerate the flow of institutional capital into the middle market clean energy projects to further the clean energy transition. By middle market, you might be thinking, what does that mean? A lot of folks, when they think of solar and energy storage, they think of either residential, where solar is on homes, or they think of really, really, really large utility scale solar developments in a desert, for example. But the middle market solar industry focuses on businesses close to everyday people. There might be panels on a rooftop. There might be panels on a hospital. There might be systems on farmland that's not being used for crops, or might be combined with crops called agrivoltaics. Um, they're a little bit closer to where people live and are closer to load. And one of the systems called community solar that I'm proud to have been a part of policy reform for is a mechanism that provides a lot of savings to low-income communities and disadvantaged communities that were previously left out of kind of this energy transition. It's a way to provide them savings on their electricity bills. So really bringing in the community a little bit more, especially for renters and folks who can't actually own systems on a residential system. So We have deep expertise in our focus and have a focused approach to earn the trust of some of the world's largest institutional investors. We actively invest in the full cycle of solar and energy storage projects, including during development, during construction, and after that system is already built or operational. Um, the company also provides early stage capital to early stage clean energy developers. For example, in 2022, CleanCapital did acquire BQ Energy, and they are a developer, national leader in brownfield and landfill clean energy development. So, all around the country, we have sites that can't really be used for anything else because they have contaminated lands, maybe they have old coal mines, and what we do is repurpose that land that it's usually just sitting there doing nothing, costing people money. We really put panels on top of that land after remediating it. So that's something that the folks internally have some expertise in. And we've invested in additional developer partners across the United States. So um, we are among the top 10 commercial solar asset owners in the United States with $1 billion invested to date. We have acquired 460 megawatts of solar projects, commercial solar projects across 230 projects. And we really appreciate this unique focus on the middle market because it was really neglected in the past and it's becoming one of the national kind of leaders in this clean energy transition. And this is what some of those projects look like. So these are our core asset classes. Um, you have operating solar. So because we're investors, we might actually purchase systems that have already been built and are already operational. We have new construction solar that hasn't been energized yet. It's not flowing electrons yet. It's not providing that clean renewable energy yet, but we'll buy it at a certain stage and then continue developing it on throughout the construction cycle. We have recently really initiated an energy storage. It's very technical work and it's something that's new to me as I've started this position about 6 months ago. So I'm learning a lot about the grid reliability, what it takes to interconnect to the grid from a technical standpoint. It's really interesting. And kind of how, you know, there's a lot of demand on the grid and energy storage is a way to reduce that. And then there's early stage development, talking to landowners, talking to building owners about the benefits of hosting solar or energy storage in a place that they own. So CleanCapital targets solar portfolios of around 8 megawatts or more, with individual projects averaging 2 megawatts in size. Um, we also target front of the meter and behind the meter storage. So front of the meter means that it's really not connected to any load. We're just injecting that energy right into the grid, and the purchaser of that energy is the utility. Behind the meter means that it is servicing a load, meaning that say you live in an apartment building, uh, you're using a bunch of electronics and using up a bunch of energy. That solar system would directly offset the energy that you are creating. Hopefully that was a good explanation, but together these verticals deliver diversity while capitalizing on the most promising segments of the renewable energy market. And this is what those projects look like across the country. This makes my job very difficult because it means I have to follow policy across all of these different states across the US, which right now we have projects in 26 states. But because I follow legislation, legislation can be anywhere across the world. Bills are introduced to create these markets. And it is up to me to keep an eye on that so that we know that we need to get land there or talk to building owners there about putting solar where they own things. So that brings me to kind of what do I do? How does it relate to my academic experience at SUNY ESF? Um, so I'll start to the left here on stakeholder engagement. I actually took a civic engagement and participatory planning course by Dr. Marin, okay, and who's on the call today. And I think that really prepared me to learn how to speak to different audiences and learn how to compile materials that convey what we want to convey, right? Um, the For example, you have something called a renewable portfolio standard, which is usually a policy that creates some goal like 100% by 2030 or 75% renewable energy by 2030, right? In order to get that passed, you have to vet it across a lot of different people. You have to make sure that the community wants that work to be done there, that they understand the benefits, the pros and the cons of hosting systems in their communities and how it can really benefit them. You have to talk to the state about why they should support it, especially if they're going to provide any kind of financial incentives to do it. Um, you're talking with landowners and building owners and all these different stakeholders or people that are going to be engaged with that particular system. And what I did in that civic engagement class was create posters, create different kind of information materials, create a plan for engaging the community, like different types of meetings within their communities to discuss what is solar, what is community solar, what kind of discounts can they get. There's a lot of talking involved in getting people involved because this is really up to all of us to make sure that we have a clean grid and that we're tackling climate change. Um, and that brings me to reading regulatory policies and legislation and monitoring programs. Um, so how policy usually works is that there is a bill or there's legislation. Um, a lot of different folks help write that legislation. Sometimes it's private companies like the one I work for. Sometimes it's the state. Sometimes it's a local municipality. That language is crafted. It's put through the legislative process, and if passed, someone has to implement it. And along the way, there's a lot of reading. So if you want to do policy, make sure you can read a ton of really long documents and break it down to the rest of your team in a way that is, or the community, in a way that is easy to understand. And then once that is implemented, there's usually some kind of program that you'll have to enter into. So something that I do is I monitor program changes. I read guides. I give feedback on what is working for renewable energy development and what is not working, what's hindering it, if costs are increasing, because those different kind of market mechanisms are really important to understand and learn. Um, then lobby days. So a lobby day is really, you can do one right now as a student if you want to. You could gather a bunch of folks or go alone and meet with your legislators in your district or who's working on a topic that you care about. For example, I recently went to one in Washington, D.C. I also went to a lobby day in Albany just maybe 2 weeks ago with an organization called NYSEA that I'm a board member at, the New York Solar Energy Industries Association. And our goal there was to educate legislators about what solar is and specifically about what the middle market solar is. Um, you'll be surprised how little legislators know just because they have to follow so many different topics. They're not just focusing on solar. They're not just focusing on climate change. They have to focus on safety. They have to focus on a host of different topics, and it might be really difficult for them to follow the details. So we were there to hand out flyers, to educate them about why what we do is important, how it's solving the climate crisis, and what they can do and what bills that they can support and pass through legislation that would allow us to continue to do that great work. So that's when I put on my suit and tie and just go talk to folks that are passing bills and are in charge of decision making um, for what our laws look like. And before all that is passed and all those programs are out and all those incentives are out, there's usually working groups and trade calls about what's the best way to do that. So sometimes I'm reading a lot, sometimes I'm out talking to folks. It's a very varied schedule and varies day to day. Sometimes I'm just on Zoom calls all day long across different states, talking about what the current structure of a program is, what the current structure of the law is, if it needs to be changed, how it needs to be changed, why it needs to be changed, and who would benefit from it. So, you collaborate with other developers, you collaborate with the state, you collaborate with labor who are building the projects to come up with our best plan to get the job done. And then in a little bit more fun, there are tons of conferences and events to celebrate those wins and get together in person um, to get the job done to deploy solar and energy storage. Um, right here is a picture of celebrating wins. We actually gave Mayor Adams a award last year at a New York City event, and the award was really because he supported zoning reform to allow for solar and energy storage in New York City. New York City specifically has a really dirty grid, um, a little bit different from upstate that has a little bit of hydro and some other things, but there's a lot of gas peaker plants and other things that are really been sourced in kind of environmental justice communities. And we're looking to change the makeup of our grid so that it's a little bit more cleaner. So handing out awards, I try to speak as much as I can on panels at conferences. It's a great way to meet other people working in the industry, to learn about new topics that you might not have learned before, um, and just really get out there and kind of put yourself out there and meet new people. I'll also talk about kind of reports and analysis. So something that I do in my current role at CleanCapital is create reports. And what that report is legislation across probably 20 plus states, and then regulations across 20 plus states. Regulations usually aren't law. For the energy industry, that's usually something that the Public Service Commission publishes on their websites and their dockets. Dockets are just case numbers that are assigned to a certain topic, like a rate that they're trying to create or some kind of program that they're trying to create. Um, and they give us updates on how everything's going to operate. So I'll follow any new documents that are going to come out, what those documents entail, and how they will impact the projects that we build. If they're going to increase costs, if they're going to make the timeline for construction longer, um, if they just don't work at all, if they impact the types of materials that we can use to build the projects. We want to know what kind of policies and standards that we have to follow. And then, I'll put those changes into a report across the various states and federally. And then project finance. I do work for an investor, so you have to know, just enough about the deals that they're doing and how they're being structured. Um, I'll say that one of the most useful classes that I took on project finance was the Managerial Economics for Sustainability course, which is a part of the sustainability management curriculum. It really got you using spreadsheets and learning the different kind of financial tools to kind of balance a project. I think one of the projects I actually did was related to forestry and how to operate a logging company. So that was interesting. And then for reports and analysis, I mean, a part of my curriculum included microeconomics, macroeconomics. We had a very detailed data analysis course that taught me how to use Excel. I took climate change and sustainability courses that also use those Excel skills, and you'll be surprised. A lot of these companies really do use Excel, so try to get comfortable with that. Um, I consider myself a bit of a tree hugger, an environmentalist, and we forget that even though we care so much about the planet and animals and water and resources, these are highly technical jobs. So, just getting comfortable with baseline some of that really technical material is really important as well, as going out to communities and speaking and having those soft skills. Um, I'll also highlight one skill that I'm really happy that I gained at ESF, which was geographic information systems. While I was doing my internship, I actually used QGIS, which is the system that's used in that course, to create maps. And I created maps about different lands that we wanted to target and if they were in environmental justice communities. And that was a really cool project that I was proud of. We wanted to know if the land that we wanted to put solar on was in an environmental justice community because there are different tax credits that you can get for that. And we also just wanted to provide additional benefits to the community. For the folks that subscribe to that energy, they would receive a 10% discount on their electricity bills. So it was important to identify where those folks lived so that we can make sure that we put projects in their communities that help them out a bit. So that is a bit about what I do. It is a very varied job. It's very interdisciplinary, but I think that's just the nature of sustainability. A lot of these jobs are very interdisciplinary, although you can find ones that focus on one thing or another. Um, and I'll move on to kind of how to find folks who are doing renewable energy development and folks that might be working on really cool policies to not only create jobs, to not only increase tax revenue bases, but to get you some experience. So I'll talk about the role of trade organizations. CleanCapital is a part of a lot of trade organizations, and what they do is they work to build public and political support for advanced energy, both federally and in applicable states. They offer members unmatched energy policy expertise, and you don't actually have to work for a company yet to be a member. A lot of these trade organizations have student members where they give you a discount to be a part of them. Um, Schools can be a part. Whoever. These are nonprofit organizations normally that work on the climate crisis, specifically in renewable energy development, but all across a lot of different topics. Trade organizations translate member priorities into high-level policy wins that improve the business environment for advanced energy companies. One thing that I do is I talk a lot about how private industry spurs economic development, and how much private industry puts into the community. Um, and on the right here are a lot of these different trade organizations. I think I mentioned before, but I am on the board at NYSEA, which is the New York Solar Energy Industries Association. That association focuses solely on advancing solar businesses across New York State. But there are trade organizations across the entire world. We have Michigan, EIBC. SEIA is a nationally known trade organization called the Solar Energy Industries Association. They work on a lot of federal issues, but at the state level as well. ACE New York, CASA, you name it. And I really wanted to highlight this for students because if you're looking for companies that do this work, I would advise you to go to the trade organization's website, look at their member directory. You'll see hundreds and hundreds of members of that trade organization. You can go right to their website and look at the open job opportunities they have, internships, volunteer opportunities, you name it. It's a great way to see all of these companies in one place, instead of kind of not knowing who's doing this work, what the names of those companies are. So I did want to highlight that as an additional resource for folks looking to learn more about companies that do renewable energy development. This is, I believe, my last slide here before the Q&A portion, but I wanted to reel it back in and focus on the big picture. So policy incentivizes renewable energy adoption. Sometimes it just makes renewable energy adoption legal, but it also incentivizes companies to put their money there, right? New York is a national leader in solar, specifically community solar, and that is due to the robust policies that we have here. Policy establishes grid integration standards. As I talked about on the more technical end, when I talked about energy storage, policy drives research and development. I think because I work in the industry, I view it as this really large thing. But when you kind of take a step foot out, you have so much work to do. I wouldn't say that we're still a new industry. We're becoming a little bit more seasoned, but compared to a lot of different resources like coal, like national natural gas, we're still a new technology that is rapidly evolving. Um, New standards are coming out every day. New equipment is coming out every single day. So it really drives what research and development for what the best things to do look like. Policy encourages market stability. Um, by market stability, you have to know that you're able to operate in a particular state. You have to know that it's economically feasible. Policy can help to do that. Fiscal analysis can help to do that. Policy addresses social and environmental concerns. And policy fosters collaboration for a sustainable future. So when you're doing policy and you're reading a bunch of long documents and you're doing data analysis that can be a little bit tedious, you have to think of the big picture that your role is helping to create a more sustainable future. Um, I will leave that there. And Kathy, I don't know if you want to see if we have any questions.
Absolutely. First, I would just say thank you. That was a great overview of what you do, of where you've come from, and how you've incorporated. So, yeah, thank you, Twiggy, very much for that.